Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 18th, 2019 meeting of the Delhi Township Board of Trustees. Tonight's meeting will begin with a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Tonight's moment of silence is a moment of gratitude for those servicemen and women serving all over, everywhere, keeping all of us safe through the holiday season and unable to be with their own families at this time. So if I could please, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, then. Approval of the minutes, Mr. Luby?
Motion to approve the minutes from the Board of Trustees meeting held on November 27th, 2019, and dispense with the reading.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve bills for payment.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve the payment of overtime for pay period ending December 3rd, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Yes. Motion approved. Report from our fiscal officer then, Mr. Luby.
Resolution 2019-202, resolution approving purchase order obligations incurred on behalf of the township by the township administrator, authorizing payment of certain purchase order obligations and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Resolution 2019-203, resolution making appropriation of funds for expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
As far as significant transactions since the last meeting, as far as deposits, we received $233,000 on December the 12th is stop loss reimbursement in our health insurance. And on 12/12, we received $49,000 for our cable franchise fee. And as far as disbursements, on 12/12, our payroll was $287,000. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Luby. Trustee correspondence, Trustee Davis?
None at this time.
Trustee Sturts?
Yes, I want to thank the Delhi Business Association for a fine parade, Christmas parade. It's always fun to participate in it. Unfortunately, we didn't have Elders Band behind us because they were celebrating up in Canton. Well, I guess not celebrating, but playing up in Canton. But Santa Claus arrived right on time. The day was beautiful. And it's just fun for everybody. So next year, come out if you missed it this year. It's always the first Saturday in December. So again, thank you to all the work and effort it takes by the Delhi Business Association.
Okay, thank you. This Friday, actually, we are going to celebrate a big graduation for one of our Delhi police officers. Joe Macaluso is joining that elite group of FBI Academy graduates. A couple of our own have gone up there to kind of support him through his graduation, and we are so proud because he's not our only graduate. We have quite a few, our own chief, our own assistant chief. Jeff, there's one more? 5. Give me the names.
8 total.
Yeah,
You talking past
on the spot.
You talking past?
There's Chief
Idecker was one, that was earlier.
Bauer, Clutta, Macon, Eschenbach. Ooh, that's it.
And
Wow.
then you three.
Well, this is quite an elite group, the FBI Academy graduation, and I just, from all of us here, we say congratulations, Joe Macaluso. We are so proud of you, and we will have a presentation to him at a later date. Also, a congratulations to those who have completed their Delhi Citizens Police Academy course, and we will be with them tomorrow night for their graduation. So congratulations to all of them, and thanks for the good work and the good deeds that we know you'll be doing as volunteers with the DCPA, we hope, right? All right, thank you. Tonight, we also have a very special presentation, and that is to a gentleman who's just been an unbelievable, prominent supporter, and, you know, the term pillar of a community is kind of overused. But when somebody gives almost 25 years of their time to support a Delhi community activity called the Board of Zoning Appeals, not an easy place to be. Robert Ash, thank you so very much for your time and your service. And I know that you were also serving on our airport board. And a little known fact is that once upon a time, you might have been a Delhi Township employee? Yes. 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 So we're sad to say that Robert Ash is retiring from the Board of Zoning Appeals, and we would like to present him with just a little memento of our gratitude of his time of serving with us. You know, there's a saying, the greatest gift anyone can give you is their time, and we've taken yours for a long time. And we'd like to also thank your wife, Julie, and your daughters for allowing us to share with you. Okay? So if you could please, Robert, we have a little memento for you.
We're all going down? No. Yeah, watch the bottom of it.
On the bottom.
Thank you.
So, Robert, on behalf of Delhi Township and the Board of Zoning Appeals, we would like to thank you for your meritorious service of 25 years to this township. Thank you so very much. All right, Mr. Ryan, we're going to take a minute.
Take a picture.
Robert, we're going to take some more.
There's another outstanding claim to fame that I cannot believe we just slid right by.
What is it?
He is also a proud graduate of,
No.
yes,
Yay! On Highlander.
There's come on team victories. Congratulations again, Rob. Awesome, awesome.
Please don't tell me you went to Ohio State, too. No. Yay!
Well,
All right, Danny, are we back on? All righty. All right, continuing on then with our regular agenda for the evening. I have nothing from the police department, is that correct, Assistant Chief? All right. Public Works, so Director Ron Ripperger. Mr. Luby, you want to call for the public hearing?
Motion directing notice to abutting property owners by mail and publication of the hearing on the sidewalk assessments to be held on January 8th, 2020.
so moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Resolution 2019-204, resolution entering into collective bargaining agreement with the Delhi Township Road Department, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution, Mr. Ripperger?
I don't have anything.
No? All right.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Resolution 2019-205, resolution approving change order number 1 to the contract with R.A. Miller Construction, Inc. for the Delhi Township Rehabilitation and Repair Project 2019-A, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution, Mr. Ripperger?
This is just standard, something we do every year, and we usually finish a little less than the contract amount, which is what we did this year, about $30,000 less.
Okay, thank you.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes. I have nothing from Fire Department, Chief Campbell? Okay. Parks and Recreation, then, Director Torbeck?
Resolution 2019-206, resolution restating the Parks and Recreation user permit fee schedule for permits in connection with the limited or exclusive use of facilities and participation in programs, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
We
Mr.
just
Torbeck?
updated a couple of our fee schedules, one being adding a credit card convenience fee to our schedule. That way we can accept credit cards over the phone. A lot of residents, just out of convenience, would like to do that instead of having to come in, so we added that. We also used to set prices for our summer programs, but because our summer programs are changing and evolving, it's hard for us to set prices in January, so we're leaving that open for when everything's set in stone.
And when do you think that would be?
Probably February, March, depending on when everything's finalized, but early in the year, early enough where we'll get the word out about the summer programs. And then we changed the festival fee from $250 to $500. It's a fee that we hardly use. It used to be about once a year, but as we're gaining popularity and bringing more events to the park, it's something we probably need to update because it takes a lot more resources and a lot more space. And it was actually cheaper to rent the lodge than it was to rent the lodge and half the park. So it made sense to kind of update that.
On raising that fee, have you compared that to other parks available in the area?
We're still well below.
We're still below? Okay, any questions, Trustee Davis?
Nope.
Trustee Sturts?
No, sounds good to me.
Okay.
You did your homework.
Thank you.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Administration?
Resolution 2019-207, resolution entering into consulting agreement with Focus Capital Solutions, LLC, through December 31st, 2020, and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution, Mr. Cameron?
The next three resolutions, this one being the first, are kind of the end of the year, going into the first of the year housekeeping efforts.
Okay.
So this first one is for Mr. Glover, who you use for lobbying activities and advocation.
Okay.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Resolution 2019-208, resolution appointing financial advisory board and amending and restating the organizational structure and responsibilities and dispensing with a second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Resolution 2019-209, resolution adopting rules under revised code 121.22F and dispensing with a second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
And any discussion on this resolution?
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Community Mr. Cameron, there was one other thing you wanted to add to this.
I have three notes I want to make. I'll leave the first one last. if that makes sense. Update on the Rumpke site. We have not sat still. We've continued to engage groups. We engaged a Mount St. Joe student group. We engaged our employees to get their feedback on the project and thoughts, and Mr. Steck is continuing to, I think January 15th, he's going to engage an Oak Hills group. So we're continuing to engage groups to get more feedback on the project. We do anticipate looking for the March timeframe for that second follow-up set of meetings with more information in the financials and some other things to let people know, here's the options, here's some costs, are you still thinking what you thought before? We have talked to the schools, meaning Mount St. Joe's, Elder, Seton, Oak Hills, about our project, and they're still committed and in to what we first talked about with the pool project, and we still need to sort out the actual financial aspect to get them to say, yes, that's where we're at. But they're still all on board with that part of it.
Are you still accepting names for communication, like emails for people to get on your mailing list?
Oh, yes, I talked to a gentleman Monday who has no email, so I took his name and address and talked to him about the project. Yes, if somebody wants to give us an email, phone number, address so we can communicate, that's, yes, all the time, absolutely. And the sign out front, there's an issue with the reader board on that sign that we're working through, and I'm pretty sure we've got a resolution to that sign. Now, this is landlord type stuff. So if anybody notices it's not actually working, we're aware of it, and we're trying to get it resolved. Note number 2, there was a few changes to the appropriations that I wanted to circle back on. Just highlight the dispatch fees. We didn't have those incorporated in the first go-around because we just learned we're currently paying $16 to the communication center. They dropped it to $10. So
And that
as
was
a
a
follow-up to the
Yeah.
sales tax that they
Sales
kept
tax.
on, they promised they would make that, they would flow through to the communities in Township specifically. So we lessened the police and fire budgets appropriately for how many calls they make.
Okay.
So that's what, 37% reduction in cost
Huge.
for that. The ladder truck, we were in the midst, the chief was in the midst of getting some pricing. It came back, and if you remember, the conversation was we expected in the $200,000 range for the repair. Came back in the $350,000 range. So it seems the conversation is replacement, not repair. So that was taken out of his repair budget, so that's a drop of $200,000. But we're going to have, the chief is convening a committee to talk about the proper piece of equipment, timing. I know Mr. Luby's been engaged on the financing options, but so that is a change in the budget. And there was a slight change for police vehicles for accounting the way we bring the revenue in and then pay it out. So there were not a lot of changes, but those were some substantial ones that had discussion on the December 4th appropriation meeting.
Thank you.
Now, the final thing I really wanted to make note, we recently engaged and had an incident with a resident and a self-described First Amendment auditor. So a little over a month ago, we had a resident engage with some of our police and fire personnel. These personnel were basically challenged on their ability to recognize and respect this citizen's First Amendment rights. It was not a positive exchange for our personnel, although there was no unlawful behavior by our personnel and certainly not by this citizen. This incident ultimately resulted in an investigation by the police department, an internal investigation. All police and fire personnel sat down and watched the body cam footage, with the chief and assistant chief, et cetera, to learn from this. And really why things should have happened more positively and better in this case. Eventually, it resulted in one of our police officers getting counseling and then department-wide training on protecting citizens' First Amendment rights as well as upholding, our expected high service level delivery. I do believe this was an isolated incident. We don't field many complaints, in regard to our officers' conduct like this. I also believe this was a good reminder to everyone, myself included, about our mission and what we're protecting beyond our local laws, which is, citizens' rights and First Amendment rights specifically, as citizens of the United States. I do want to thank Mr. Gagis, who was the resident involved, for his highlighting this to us, the need to refresh ourselves in this regard and promise, that we will do this better and be more vigilant moving forward in this regard. So I just wanted to make sure, there was some video that was put out, and we've received some calls, and we're not hiding from it. It's something we recognize and have dealt with, and just wanted to make sure that was clear and apparent.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Mr. Davis?
I have just a quick one. The employees that you sat down with and showed the video, were those just the ones immediately involved, or is that for all the employees so that they're kind of up to date on First Amendment rights and such?
The ones directly involved watched all the body camera footage. The ones not directly involved, it was a discussion, like as a staff, as a group with the chief,
Right.
to make sure we didn't fumble this again. But I would imagine a lot of them have watched it, but it wasn't a required viewing for those not involved.
Would it be advantageous to have this extend to like the Parks Department, where there's a lot of opportunity for this videotaping?
Yes, certainly, we want to make sure everybody
I mean, to our
recognizes
staff.
that we treat everybody with respect regardless, and you have to realize it's not something personal.
Okay.
And in police dealing with things are different, they're going in and dealing with charged situations, but others, we need to recognize that this is somebody's right, and don't let them elicit a reaction that's not necessary. You be respectful and courteous, and we have talked about it beyond the police and fire department. There's no doubt about that.
Right. Thank you. Any questions?
No, thank you much.
All right, then. Community development, Mr. DeLong, and before you get started, I am remiss at one thing, and that's recognizing one of the people in our audience this evening, Mr. Joe Shear. How many years did we hang on to you in the zoning department? 43 years.
Yeah.
Exactly. So thank you so much for being here. I know you're here to support and congratulate Robert on his retirement, but thanks for being here. It's great to see you. All right, then. Public hearing on community development. Mr. Luby.
Motion accepting and acknowledging receipt of zoning commission recommendation in case ZC 2019-01 and scheduling a public hearing on January 8th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Yes. Motion approved. Board appointments. Motion.
Motion to reappoint Charlie Fair to the zoning commission for a 5-year term ending December 31st, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Yes.
How many years will it be for Charlie then? Quite a few also, right?
Getting up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Close to Joe. Yeah.
Thanks, Charlie Fear. You're approved.
Sorry, Charlie.
Motion to appoint Jennifer Vader to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a 5-year term ending December 31st, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Congratulations, Jennifer. You are now approved to be a Board of Zoning Appeals member. Resolution?
Resolution 2019-210, resolution certifying violation abatement expenses at 5289 Whitmore Drive to the county auditor for assessment, declaring an emergency and dispensing with a second reading.
Introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution, Mr. DeLong?
Yeah, both of these, I'll talk about the next two resolutions, this one and the next. Both of them were for excessive vegetation. We did go in the month of November, People wouldn't think we'd be out there abating, but we're out there in the month of November, after Thanksgiving, actually clearing these properties from excessive vegetation. Both of them will have a $453 assessment placed on their taxes for the second quarter of next year.
Okay.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Resolution 2019-211, resolution certifying violation abatement expenses at 5326 Dell Hill Drive to the county auditor for assessment, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
Introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution? This is same as before. Excessive vegetation, about $450. 453. Thank you.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Thank you, Greg. Public comments, I have nothing signed in. Is that true? All right. Announcement of community events then, Mr. Luby.
Delhi Township Christmas tree recycling will be from January 3rd through January 10th. It will be during daylight hours. The drop-off location will be at Floral Paradise Gardens at 461 Greenwell Avenue. The Delhi Historical Society program, 50 years ago, How Life Changed Forever, will be Monday, January 13th at 7 p.m. at the Delhi Park Lodge at 5125 Foley Road. Delhi Branch Library presents And the Crowd Goes Wild, Monday, January 20th at 7 p.m. And that will be at the Delhi Branch Library at 5095 Foley Road.
Okay, and an additional community announcement. We are into the heavy traffic time at the recycling bins. Please obey the law, obey the rules, know what's recyclable, what's not. Don't try to jam it in an overfilled bin. And just as a note, our cameras are working. So if you think you're going to slip by, I don't think so. Think again. I have a question.
Just real quick, I was at the senior center today. People could collapse down their boxes. I mean, there were full
Good.
size boxes shoved up there that if they had flattened them out.
Good point. If you have shipping boxes, which I know most of us have, please flatten those boxes before you put them in the bins. It helps to get more into the bin. Okay.
Are we getting extra bins and extra pickup days?
They just dropped off a large one today.
Another a large one? A really
30
big
yarder,
one?
Yeah.
And then are they doing extra days, or we're still on the same schedule, which is?
The schedule's Monday, Thursday, Saturday pickup.
So if it's full, please wait just another half a day and bring it back.
All right. We do have cause for executive session this evening, so if I could have that motion, Mr. Luby?
Motion to retire to executive session to consider the compensation of public employees of the township, to review negotiations with public employees concerning their compensation and other terms of employment and economic development matters.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
No?
Oh, I'm sorry. Please call the roll, Mr. Luby.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Motion approved. That will conclude our regularly scheduled township meeting for 2019. We will see you all in 2020 on January the 8th. At that point in time, we will have the swearing in of Trustee Sturts. So we hope to see you then, and on behalf of the board, we wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. Stay safe.